Hello everyone and welcome to the Manchester Film Festival. I'm joined today by the director of The Severed Son, Dean Puckett.
Hello, Tom.
Hello. Dean, can you tell us a little bit about the film you've brought for us today?
The film's called The Severed Son. It's a kind of postmodern folk horror set on Bodmin Moor in Cornwall. It's about an isolated religious community run by a cult leader called the Pastor, and how his daughter rebels against his system of control, and there may or may not be a supernatural beast stalking around in the forest.
This isn't your first foray into folk horror. You've previously been here with Seagull a few years ago. What about folk horror attracts you as a creative?
I wrote a short film called The Sermon back in 2016, and it was very, very close. It was basically straight after the Brexit vote, and I was kind of tapping into my own anxiety about mob mentality and what I consider to be, in my opinion, these kind of male figures using stories in order to make people act against their own interests. And so I tapped into that, and I wrote a short which was bedded into the folk horror genre, which explored those ideas. And then that film did really well at film festivals and whatnot. And then it actually was 6 years of development from that point, of bringing out The Sermon, which was really the seed of the idea for this feature film, which deals with those same ideas, but on a slightly bigger canvas.
It's interesting that you say these charming, charismatic people who sort of seize control of a section of, communities and people. That feels more relevant now, in 2025, perhaps, than when you first started making the movie.
Yeah, that's been a very interesting thing, because obviously I wrote The Sermon in 2016, and I've been developing this. This was stuck in development for 6 years, and during that time there's been these cycles where those ideas and issues have become even more prevalent than even maybe in 2016. Things have actually gotten worse. So I think the packaging of the folk horror thing, I just love cinema, and I love the old folk horror movies. I also love the mania of something like Ken Russell's The Devils. And I just really enjoy saying something about the world, or specifically Britain, where we are now, through the vehicle of a genre movie like this. I just enjoy playing with those elements, but also having that kind of underlying thing I'd quite like to say. But I don't think I don't have a political message with a big P. It's more just exploring the idea that any of us could be a part of that mob. I don't think the mob coming for you is a scary idea, but what I think is scarier, or what I'm trying to explore more than that, is the idea that any of us could be a part of that mob. And I think that's what I've tried to do with all the characters in my film, is nobody is a straight up baddie, or everybody's got a kind of shades of grey or complicated interaction with the events that are set in motion, which lead us to the kind of, the explosion of violence that happens in the movie.
We do have to talk a little bit about the Beast here, who joins us through the poster, of course. We won't spoil anything, but the design of the Beast is one of the most striking things in the movie. Can you tell us a little bit about the creation of this monster?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to go for the Alien sort of approach, where, in Alien, you don't really see it move very much, because if it moves too much, you realize it's a guy in a suit. So I took inspiration from, I've had a few night terrors. So I've had 3 instances where I've woken up in bed and I haven't been able to move. And on the other side of the room has been a dark shape with shining eyes. And I thought I was awake, but I couldn't move. And then I woke up and it disappeared. And this is a common experience across disparate cultures, that people see these sleep paralysis demons. And So I used that experience that happened to me in order to design this thing which I wanted to be iconic and impactful, but was also let's realistically, pragmatically, on the budget that we had, I thought we could do a shape, you know, and we could have it not move too much, and it would be creepy and weird, and you know, it's a kind of shadow that's been born out of the earth, and so. But the design was based on my experience of sleep paralysis.
It's absolutely terrifying. At any time it was on screen, I felt uncomfortable. So,
okay, well, I'm pleased to hear that.
And what do you hope that audiences who watch the movie today take away from it?
I just want them to have an enjoyable cinematic experience. I think all we can really do as filmmakers is try to reflect. I think in horror especially, it's about trying to reflect some sort of anxiety that we feel, that we think can connect with other people and maybe some of the things they're feeling about the world around them. And I think there's a catharsis in that. I think that's a thing that's bedded into horror in general. Good horror movies seem to tap into a certain something that's in the air. And so I think there's a reason we've seen a resurgence in folk horror in general. And I do think it's this queasy feeling about the way the wind's blowing politically, and the numbers of people that seem to be getting behind certain kinds of ideas. And wherever you sit on the spectrum, we're definitely at very heightened times when it comes to that stuff. So it's a good old-fashioned gory folk horror yarn. So it's not like some political movie, but the underlying ideas, I think I'd like people to consider whether or not they could get caught up in a mob mentality, I guess.
Dean, thank you so much. Let's
No
go watch
problem.
your movie.
Thank you.